Today's lesson is how to handle criticism. Okay, by now, you're working your way through becoming a professional announcer like myself. Well, guess what? There's gonna be the haters. There's gonna be the criticism. There's gonna be the people that are the naysayers. That's gonna happen no matter what. And especially when you're in a public eye and when you become somewhat of an announcer that of all different types of events, you're gonna have critics. And how do you handle the critics? How do you get to the bottom of this? How do you equalize them? Well, I'm gonna help you on that. Now, I talked about the story when I was working in the NBA as a professional announcer, okay? And I was on the court doing all the stuff for the timeout breaks, the quarter breaks, and one time I was walking off. Now, I've told this in another story, so if you heard it before, just bear with me. But if you're hearing it for the first time, listen up. This is kind of something important here. All right, now, a person yelled at me when I was walking off stage and said, "You suck, Brad J." As loud as possible. It was right before the team went back onto the floor to play the game, and so the arena was pretty quiet at that point, and you could pretty much hear it as loud as possible. I pointed up to the dude in the stands and like put the fist up like, yeah, like it was a good thing that he did that. Okay, so we get through that game. Another game coming up. We're in the Staples Center in Los Angeles. I'm the announcer for the Los Angeles Clippers in the NBA. I'm getting up there again, and the guy does it again. Same spot. This time, I did not respond to him at all. Did not respond to the guy at all. Right? Just stopped. Another game, he did it again. Did not respond to him. After that, he was over it. He moved on to something else because he was bored. I wasn't responding to him. So what I did wrong there, I engaged him by pointing up to him, giving him like, yeah, man, that was funny that you said that. By doing that, that gave him a right to do it again and then again. And by me ignoring him, made him stop doing it in the end. So one of the most important lessons I'm going to teach you right now about criticism is don't engage with the critics. It never is going to work on your behalf by you engaging at all. And when it's a large crowd, you can't be looking at every single person out there. And if someone's like, whatever, making faces at you, you've got to ignore that and you have to move on with the show, because if you start getting into that situation, everything's going to bother you. So you got to ignore it when it comes to the large crowds. Now let's talk about the social media aspect of it. Definitely do not engage on social media unless someone's giving you props and you want to thank them for that. If someone's saying something nice about you, then that's good. To be the humble person, thank them for that, and that's a good way to engage. But if someone comes off tearing you apart, do not engage at all. Criticism is not going to help you by engaging, because guess what? These are internet style trolls. They're going to keep going. They're going to keep going, keep going. It's going to build, and it's going to eventually overtake you because you let it and you got involved with it. One of the most important things, don't engage. Not engaging is so important, but I'll tell you what, you also have to know in your mind, okay? As an announcer, you have a very tough job. Okay, being an announcer is not the easiest thing to do. And you have to know in your heart, inside, that these people that are hating on you or being critics or being negative to you, they can't come out and do what you do. So you need to know that in your mind and not let that get to you. I'm not saying to engage with them and talk to them about that, saying you try and get out here, because you're gonna look like a whiny baby and it's just gonna backfire in your face. So not engaging, and just be yourself and get away from it and ignore it. And I'll tell you what, you definitely got to do that, because if you get it, like especially nowadays, there's so many social media platforms. Like one of the events I've been doing for years, I've been an announcer in mountain biking. Okay, for years I've been doing this, and I've been a webcast host. I've hosted over 200, 300 different webcast shows for mountain biking. Well, there's a couple people on one of the popular mountain bike forums that started saying some negative things about me, even though I was doing a good job, and I knew I was doing a good job because all the people that are hiring me were very happy with what I did and very happy with what I was doing. But there was just a few people, and I would say about 3 or 4, and they were the same individuals. So it wasn't like a whole bunch of people doing this, but these same 3 and 4 individuals, what they would do is come out time after time, every time I do a mountain bike event, and on the popular social media platform, they would hammer me and say some really rude stuff, and stuff that was just like in manner that should not even be there at all, that you could probably almost get arrested for saying some of the stuff that they would say regarding me. And it was the same 3 or 4 guys, and it happened to them and it happened all the time. Well, it was mellowing out and it wasn't happening as much, but then I started taking notice, and you know what I started doing? I started kind of making fun of them back and teasing them. Well, oh my goodness, that backfired in my face harder than it ever could have backfired in my face, because once I started joking with them, they didn't take it as a joke, and they started hammering me even harder and trying to get their friends to hammer me even harder. And so it turned into which was backing off and people were mellowing out, turned into even worse, and it got worse because I engaged. And the one thing I learned from this, if you get the critics and the criticism, you got to ignore it. You got to move on. You got to rise above it. Do not engage, Maverick. Do not engage. It's never going to help you when it comes down to it. And that, my friends, is how you handle criticism.